So today we are talking about Thompson Divide administrative mineral withdrawal. Um, and so the first thing to talk about is where is the Thompson Divide? And why it matters. And then I will just cover quickly what is an administrative mineral withdrawal and how we can have an influence in it. Always like to talk about what is the role that we can play? Why does it matter for us, and how can we help impact it? So here's a picture of the Thompson Divide. It is a beautiful area, just south of Glenwood and west of Carbondale, and it goes on down towards Paonia and includes some of Kevlar Pass and goes towards Crested Butte. So it's that little area in there. There's a ton of roadless areas, which is what makes this area so important. Look, there's little, I didn't know the graphics were going to do this. So this is where it is. It's about 255,000 acres in total. And what makes it so special is that, as I mentioned, there are about a dozen inventoried roadless areas, which is an actual designation, inventoried roadless areas, that the federal government uses. And they track those because they have a lot of value for ecological reasons and for wildlife habitat, which this one does in particular. So a lot of what's protected in Colorado is what we call rock and ice. So it's that high elevation stuff that's, frankly, there's less people trying to do things in those areas. And so it's less, it's a little easier to protect those areas. So we have a lot of that protected, and there is less of this mid-elevation area that's protected in Colorado. And those are the areas that are particularly important for wildlife. So if you think about wildlife trying to survive through the winter, this mid-elevation area is critical for them to survive the cold, for them to be able to forage for food that's not covered by snow, etc. And this particular area is also an important wildlife corridor. From sort of that Grand Junction, Western Colorado, on down to the Elks. And so this is really important. These are some species that live there: lynx, moose, elk, deer, bear, and mountain lions. And there's a particularly healthy chunk of the Colorado bear population in this area. It is used for recreation. There's people that mountain bike there, hike, camp, hunt, rock climb. There's just all kinds of recreation opportunities, and therefore it's also important for the economy locally. People travel to this area to recreate. There's also some ranchers that use this area and have grazing permits there. So it's important for the economy in a few ways. It's also important for clean water. It has 15 different watersheds that are within this area, and it provides water for both domestic and agricultural uses. And obviously, having an intact environment means cleaner water. So what's the problem? The problem is oil and gas leasing that threatens this area. It's not protected at this moment, and so it is an area that could be leased for oil and gas. When George W. was president, at the end of his presidency, he relaxed rules and process and leased all kinds of federal public lands. And what happened was we ended up with leases in areas like the Thompson Divide and including the Thompson Divide. Because he didn't follow proper procedure before doing that, folks were able to fight off a lot of those leases, but there are still some leases in that area. So we do need to achieve permanent protection for it, so this doesn't keep happening. We get another president there who wants to do the same thing. They'll learn from the Bush attempt, and they will try again. Our senator, Michael Bennet, has introduced legislation that would permanently protect this area. That legislation, it was called the Thompson Divide Withdrawal, but it's now been wrapped into a larger bill called the CORE Act, the Colorado Outdoor Recreation and Economy Act. So that's been introduced. It includes protection for the Thompson Divide, permanent protection in that bill, but the bill hasn't passed yet. And it's real slow to get bills through Congress, as most folks know. They've been working on it, I want to say 3 or 4 years already, and it's going to take, I don't know how many more years, but it's going to take a while.
So I have a question about this because I literally don't understand Washington. So Bennett's in the Senate. That rhymes. I just realized that. Bennett's in the Senate and he has to create the bill and send it to the House.
So he has a partner, Representative Neguse, who has introduced it in the House. So it has been introduced in both houses, but it does need to pass in both houses. And it needs to be identical, because if it's not identical, then it has to go to the other house, be passed, and then they have a conference to work out the differences. But so it does need to pass in both houses, and then it would go to the president to be signed.
Okay, thank you for explaining that, Jen.
Of course, yeah, it's hard to understand Washington sometimes. So it's been introduced in the Senate and the House, and it did actually, I believe, get through the House, but then it didn't get through the Senate. And then when Congress expires, Congress, is in 2-year chunks, their session. If the session expires and it hasn't passed completely through both houses, then the bill dies. So that happened, and then they reintroduced it. So it is currently, has been introduced in both houses and awaits action. So until then, the Thompson Divide is vulnerable and still requires protection. So what we're doing in the meantime, what proponents of protecting Thompson Divide have done, is to go to President Biden, because he has the ability to temporarily protect it from drilling and from leasing with it's called an administrative withdrawal, because it is his administration that is doing it. He is withdrawing those lands from oil and gas leasing. So it's called a mineral withdrawal. So they being Senators Bennet and Hickenlooper, I believe Governor Polis and Congressman Neguse, all went to President Biden and said, will you please withdraw this area until we can permanently protect it? He agreed, and that kicks off a whole process for an administrative withdrawal. And here's what that looks like. Essentially, so Thompson Divide Administrative Withdrawal is the acronym there. It would be for 20 years. Again, it's temporary, and it would prohibit new mining claims and issuance of new federal mineral leases. There would still be those existing leases. It does not cancel them. But there would not be new leases, and there are efforts to see what can be done about the existing leases in the meantime. So it kicks off a whole NEPA process that his administration has to go through, which is what we're in the middle of right now. There is, I mentioned, there is a lot of support for it locally. When you go to Carbondale and some of these areas around.
Did you say NEMO process?
NEPA.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, it's the National Environmental Policy Act? Protection Act? Wow, I should know that acronym. Anyway, it's a whole process that requires that the federal government take public comment. and do an analysis of what certain actions would mean. What are the repercussions of the action that they want to take? So it's a good thing. We like NEPA. So they're in the middle of that process right now. It started about a year ago. It will probably take about another year before we have an answer on that. There is very strong support for it locally. There's United for Thompson Divide yard signs around Carbondale and some of these towns that surround Thompson Divide. So it's visible, the protection, and local organizations have popped up. There's a lot of local support for folks that want this area protected. The folks that recreate there, the folks whose livelihood depends on it, the folks who just enjoy, the wildlife that they get to see in that area. So where we are in the process right now, there was an original announcement and notice in the Federal Registry, which is all part of the process. There was some original comment period, and now they're doing an environmental analysis. What exactly does it mean if we were to withdraw mineral rights in these areas, new leases, I should say. So we're waiting for that environmental analysis. They had originally said it would be out right before Thanksgiving, but it's been delayed. And now they're saying in about 2 weeks. So it is coming up soon, hopefully in the next 2 weeks. And when that is released, that triggers another 30-day comment period. And so this is where we have a chance to have input. And they will want to hear that input. They will definitely be hearing from oil and gas companies who want to say, no, we want to be able to drill there, because they want to be able to drill everywhere. They have more leases than they will be able to use in the next decade or so, but they still want to accumulate leases as much as possible. So the administration will be hearing from them. So we need to make sure they're hearing from those of us who care about protecting these areas, so that our kids and our grandkids can go and explore these areas and have these opportunities to see wildlife and recreate and get outdoors and, everything that we love about Colorado and why we're raising our kids here. So as soon as the environment analysis is out in the next couple weeks, then we and others will take a look at it and see what it says and, see what their conclusion is. We're hopeful that they are going to be supportive of the mineral withdrawal. And then we will be sending out an email to all of our members to say, hey, this is an opportunity for you to comment on this. Here's what we think of the environmental analysis, and here's what you can do to help protect this area, this really critical area. And so we'll send that out as soon as we can, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully it's not right over the holidays, because we know everybody's got other things that they want to be doing over the holidays. So as soon as it's out, we'll send it out and we'll let everybody know. And then there'll be that comment for 30 days. And then again, we will expect a decision sometime next year. I think it's expected in October. And then that will give us the reprieve we need for 20 years. And we will continue to work towards permanent protection of this area through the CORE Act and whatever other means are available to us. So that is the Thompson Divide. Any other questions, Kiki?
Yes. Can you explain to me what an environmental analysis really is and who does it, and is there anything that could potentially go sideways on us?
Excellent question. So as part of the NEPA process, when the federal land managers are making decisions, federal government's making decisions about how they're going to manage the federal lands, they need to go through NEPA, which requires this public comment and also this analysis. And there's kind of different levels of analysis depending on how impactful the action is going to be. It's carried out by the land management agencies. So that's either the Bureau of Land Management or the Forest Service generally. In this case, the Federal Service and the Bureau of Land Management are working together on this proposal, this withdrawal, because there are lands managed by both agencies in that area. And so I imagine they're both working on this analysis together. I don't know that for sure, but I imagine that's the case since they both manage land in this area. And yes, things can always go sideways, but we are hopeful in this case that we have the support of the administration and that there will be a finding that is supportive of the administrative withdrawal.
Interesting. And so I don't understand the nesting of organizations. You got 250,000 acres. BLM has some of it. The Forest Service has some of it. And then maybe some of it is just open for a free-for-all. And that would impact, I would think, both agencies pretty substantially if someone was in there. Like it could cause problems for them.
So the all federal land is assigned to one agency or another. So if it's not Forest Service land, it will be assigned to BLM.
Okay,
and
got it.
BLM sort of gets all the other things. So it will be assigned to one of the agencies. There's not going to be federal land that is not managed by one of the agencies.
Okay, good.
And they are in different agencies and different departments, and so they have to figure out how to work together on these things. This is not the first time this has happened, and not the last time it's going to happen. And so they do have ways of working together on lands that they're both responsible for.
This is a huge initiative, Jen. Thank you for explaining it to me.
Well, thanks for caring about it and being here, Kiki. So yes, it's a big project. There's lots of other folks that are working on this around the state with us, lots of folks that care about this area. And, like I said, including a lot of local folks, recreationists, ranchers, business folks. It's really been something that's brought the local community together from everything that I know about this proposal. It's pretty exciting, actually, that there's so much support for it. So, yeah, so that's the process.
I have two friends that would be interested.
Oh, great.
They're both not moms.
That's okay.
One of them, her husband runs the Boulder Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, wow.
And her name is Molly Tayer. And she's been a facilitator in a lot of kind of land battles, right? Between either federal organizations and private parties or between private parties. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to make a connection for you guys with Molly Tayer. And the other is Eric Ringsby. And you may have met him, Jen, at a couple of my events.
Yes.
But he's really involved in climate change and land protection. So I'll also reach out and make a connection between the two of you, because he has a lot of connections that he could point to this. And again, he's not a mom and neither is Molly, but I think they would both be really interested in what you're doing and might be able to vocalize and socialize some of the concepts here with some of their folks.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Kiki. I'd love that.
Yeah. It needs to be done. And where's the PR in this? Why are we not hearing about it? That worries me, that this is such a huge amount of Colorado land and it's not making it into the social media. It's not making it into the papers. That concerns me.
There's been some coverage about it, but not as much as as we would like. So yeah, that's definitely one of the things that we and others are working on, to get articles that cover the issue, some letters to the editor to let folks know about it. Excuse me. So that actually is going to be part of this whole process as well, for sure.
That's excellent. Eric is also involved heavily with the Aspen Institute.
Oh, great.
So I'll bring that up in the communication because this would be something that that would be a really good forum to have a conversation about this. So
Yeah, and it's up in that
yeah,
neck of the woods,
it is. And yeah. So let me
literally.
get those communications out because I think there are two people that would be good cheerleaders for you,
That would
right?
be awesome. Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yay.
I have to jump to a meeting. Jen,
Okay.
I'm sorry I was last minute in joining, but I
No,
love what you guys are doing.
thanks so much for being here.